Bobby Charlton. Well done, Manchester United.
Beckham. It's a Sheringham. And Solskjaer has done it. Bobby Sarr saved it. United again. Ready.
Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host for the week, Nick.
I'm not your host for the week, Alex.
And I'm Ashwin, also not your host.
Thanks for making it clear, lads. Yeah, 3 on the podcast tonight. Obviously, we're going to be focusing on the mega comeback in the Manchester derby on Saturday. We're recording Monday night, so we've actually had 48 hours of celebration time and recovering from hangovers and such things. Yeah, exactly. We did originally plan to record this last night, but yeah, I was sound asleep at the time we were supposed to record.
Sweet dreams, right?
Well, exactly. Still recovering from the session from the night before.
Yeah.
And we would, of course, normally have Craig on this one, but Craig piped up to tell us that he switched the match off after half an hour.
What an absolute tool. What a tool. That is shocking. It was only 2-0. It could have been 5 or 6. The gods were clearly with us at that point in a way. It was still 2-0. Just when you think of some of the comebacks, even against City in recent seasons, we've had 2 3-2s against them. You know, we had the 2-0 down versus Palace a few weeks ago. Once you started the match, you're committed then. You have to suffer through it. Whether it's 6-1, whatever it is, you have to follow through till the end, I think. If you're at the game and you've got a long journey home, maybe. But if it's just on the telly, especially to put some shit film on, I can't remember what he said he watched instead. It didn't sound like it was worthwhile anyway, whatever it was.
Yeah, I do understand because I kind of almost considered it at half time because I was saying briefly, I've never not watched the whole game. The only time actually going to the game that I've ever left early, it's one of my bugbears actually, is people leaving the match early. But I was at Old Trafford the time we got annihilated 6-1 off City, and I did leave. I'm still only talking about 5 minutes early or something. So yeah, that was one of the obviously worst days ever. But yeah, watching it at home.
What if we'd come back and won 7-6? You'd have been kicking yourself, right?
Yeah, well, all right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, literally there was about 5 minutes of that left, and it was...
Yeah.
And as well, at those days, my seats were literally about 10 rows away from the away section.
Oh, God.
So sitting there while you're getting hammered off them 6-1, that was, like I said, that's the only time I've ever left the match at Old Trafford early, and I hate it because every week people leave early to try and get their trains or whatever, and it really annoys me. But yeah, that's the one time I'll admit that I did leave a few minutes before the end of it because I just couldn't take their gloating anymore. But yeah, Craig's had a bit of a nightmare on this one, I'm afraid. Look, you can kind of almost understand the sentiments. I mean, at half time, it really didn't look like there was any chance of us even getting back in this game, right? Maybe let's start there. Look, what do you think happened at half time? What did he say? What did we change? I mean, what's it? That's the $1 million question. What happened at half time?
I don't know. Fuck knows. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think they know. All the players after the match have just spoken about how there was this sort of, I don't know, somewhat ferocious tenacity from a few of the players who were talking about how they had nothing to lose. You know, they need to go for it. They're Manchester United. We can't. I think one of the quotes was Mourinho was saying to them, "Look, we don't want to be the clowns at the end of the match, watching them get their trophy, parading it in front of us," and that's great. Like it's one of the things we've spoken about with Fergie was how fantastic he was at saying the right thing in the right moment, in the right context at the right time to the players. You know, he would say whatever needed to be said to get a reaction and to cause a stir. And that's what Mourinho's done here. And in fairness, there was great character shown because you're right when you can say that you can understand the sentiment, although I would never do it, and I think it's despicable, and Craig should hang his head in shame. And I'm not sure he should be allowed on the podcast again, But I do understand because the first half we were just hopeless.
We didn't even manage a shot, not even a shot on target,
yeah.
not even
So
a
we've
shot.
had a few games like that against City, and we had that game against Spurs earlier in the season where I just felt like, like we were just so hopeless, and the lacking in quality looked so evident. That's how it felt in that first half. Like they were just miles ahead. They were completely carving us up at will.
We were lucky that it was only 2-0. I mean, Sterling obviously missed a couple of sitters. We just had nothing to offer. And the most embarrassing thing was, of course, that City had rested a few players. I mean, De Bruyne didn't start, Walker, they didn't bother with either of their strikers. Jesus and Aguero both sat on the bench. Look, they still had a pretty strong team out, but of course they had half an eye on their Champions League game on.
Although there was also a reaction to be had from them after their, second defeat of the season to Liverpool and potentially a derailing of their season in the Champions League, which is something they were quite often pipped as favourites this year. Suddenly they were looking down and out. So I think having that game against United at their place to win the title, they would have seen as the perfect remedy. So although they were kind of downtrodden coming from the Liverpool game, I actually think that if anything, they would have seen this as the perfect occasion to get that momentum swing back. And that was kind of how they performed in that first half, in fairness. And yeah, they dropped some players, but Aguero didn't play against United earlier in the season because he didn't fancy him.
I think he was coming back from injury anyway, actually. But yeah,
I don't think he was. I think it was a tactical decision from what I remember.
Yeah, because they went with kind of no proper striker.
And Guardiola has done that no striker system in big games before. He does have these games where he tries to be sometimes maybe a little bit too clever. Although you could argue actually maybe he got his tactics spot on because in one way they could have had the game dead and buried in 30 minutes if they'd wanted to, if they'd been a bit more clinical. So I don't really think people should be pointing the blame at him in terms of the players that he left on the bench anyway. But the rally in that second half was immense and kind of United of old, and it's what we want to see, isn't it? Character, players trying and battling back in the face of adversity and not hiding and shying away more and more, which is what typically we used to see happen. It was fucking great. It was like the biggest contrast ever, probably one of the worst halves of football I've ever seen United play in, and one of the best I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Well, the old cliche of a game of two halves doesn't really get much more prominent than this match.
Or a game of one half if you're Craig, but yeah.
Well, I think he said 30 minutes. Yeah, it was done and dusted.
1/3. a game of 1/3.
I think he said he did got a message from somebody and maybe tuned in when it was 2-2. So I think he did manage to see us coming back into it right at the end or something. But yeah, who missed that magic 20 minutes before that? Yeah. So yeah, like we said, City left out a few players. Obviously, still a strong team. I mean, what did you think of our lineup, Ashwin? I think the only slight kind of, you're not surprised, but yeah, the thing that came up there was Herrera starting the game. Wasn't that much of a surprise to me, of course, that he was going with kind of two more defensive midfielders and maybe Pogba pushed up a bit. But yeah, I don't think Herrera had started a match for us for quite a while because he'd been injured. McTominay had been fancied and all that. So he was the only one that was a slight surprise to me. Was there anybody else you thought should have started the game, or were you pretty happy with the starting lineup?
No, I figured that he was going to drop Mata. I figured he was going to play a 3 in the midfield, just being away from home and to give us more balance. So I wasn't too surprised by that. I figured it would be either Herrera or Fellaini, but I wasn't sure. Obviously,
not McTominay?
I didn't think he was going to pick McTominay for a match like this. I don't know. I just didn't see him doing that away from.
Played against Chelsea, right?
Yeah,
did he play against
but he played both those matches, but those were at home, right? So I think there's a bit of a difference there. And
I think Herrera was unavailable for at least one or two of those as well.
Yeah.
And even Fellaini's been in and out as well. I don't know is he fit at the moment because he wasn't even on the bench.
I don't know. He played against Sevilla, and I didn't expect him to even I didn't even think he was going to be in the squad for that. So I didn't know what to expect. I just figured it would be one of the two, And I was actually pleasantly surprised it was Herrera, because I remember last year in the first derby, we played like absolute shit in the first half again, and then Herrera came out at halftime, and we looked a lot better in the second half. So I'm not sure what it's. I think he just keeps it simple, and sometimes in a match like this, having somebody that can retain possession and just keep it simple and keep control is what you need. And he looked, up for it, which is not something that has actually been the case for a lot of matches this year when he's played. He's kind of, I don't know, he's been injured, but he's also just not looked as spry this year. But this was very much a welcome return to form from him, especially the last 15 minutes when he just spent that time getting Jesus wound up. That was awesome. I watched that second half a couple of times now, and every time that starts, I just can't stop laughing.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think you've touched on it there. So for me, I'm not sure it's the simplicity of his game. I think you can get that from quite a few other players like Mata and McTominay and stuff. I think it's that know-how. He's always had that know-how and that cuteness in the big games, whether it's he knows how to make he can speed things up with his passing, and I don't think he labours on the ball a great deal. I think he can be quick in his passing. I think when he's being pressed, he's one of those players who actually doesn't react too much for that and go into his shell. I don't think he minds being pressed, and I think he is just a very good big game player. He loves getting stuck in, and he's a bit of a dick. Yeah. Well, in fact, a massive dick, and I think if he was an opposition player, we'd all hate him because he is that sort of player who will tug at shirts, who will roll around, who will purposely go out of his way to win some fouls and slow down the game. He's that perfect sort of archetype of player that Mourinho wants. That Mourinho's had at all his other clubs, who can slow the game down and does what needs to be done in order to get the win. And I thought it was great. Like in that last 15 minutes, as you said, slowing the game down, interrupting things, disrupting them, getting under their skin, which was fantastic. But also his general play was really good. Yeah. He was very calm on the ball in the first half. I thought he was the only player who looked to be once they'd scored their goals. And his chest for that first goal was immense.
That was so though, we would never hear the end of it.
Yeah, if that was a more luxurious player, it would be considered as this fantastic piece of skill. In fact, if that was done by a City player, that goal would have been shown over and over again for a long time, because it was a fantastic piece of play. Completely took company out of the game with a through ball chest. It was insanely well done. I don't think he got enough credit for his role in that goal, actually.
Yeah, totally agree. It has actually been a pretty difficult season for Herrera after being kind of one of our players of the year last year. He's been in and out of the team, unfancied. He has been injured. And, some people have been tipping him to leave in the summer. But, yeah, he is a bit of a fan's favourite. He's got a chant that goes around all the time around J Stand. And, I'm very happy for him to come in and do damn well in a game like this.
Give us a sing, Nick. Give us a rendition.
Maybe at the end, but yeah, ole under Herrera. I'll put the YouTube in the thread because I'm not quite ready for a karaoke session right now, I'm afraid. Right, yeah. But yeah, look, let's just look back at that first half and see where it went wrong. I mean, that first goal. Smalling just gets absolutely beasted by Company, doesn't he? I mean, I was so pissed off. I was like, come on. And like, it was two bloody corners against City earlier in the season as well. So, yeah.
I feel like this happens with City often. Like, I feel like Yaya Toure and Company between them have scored probably 4 or 5 corners against us, like just between them two over the years. Or almost always the first goal as well.
Even Lescott scored one against us.
Against a team like that who are known for their passing and play, whatever, for us to give away set-piece goals, I can't believe it. And, there's nobody to look at for this goal apart from Smalling.
The set piece was unavoidable, in fairness. If you remember, it was a really dodgy clearance by Valencia where he's scuffed it up in the air instead of clearing it out, which was something that I was surprised wasn't mentioned because the corner could have been completely avoided in the first place, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we were just poor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't think we've been very good at defending set pieces all year. So it's more frustrating against City because they have one person. They had one person in that entire side that was over 6 feet tall, I think, and we couldn't mark him effectively. But
He is a beast in fairness, and he's got the meatiest head anyone's ever seen.
he is. It's just frustrating because I mean we'll get to it, I'm sure. But even in the second half, there was like that sequence where they nearly equalized. It was like 3 straight corners in a row. We have like no composure when we're defending corners. It just seems like we're so anxious to clear the ball or just get it out of play without any concern for where we should get it out, and it just, I don't know, it kind of creates its own type of pressure on ourselves.
The thing is, though, like, what I've never... I mean, so there's a few things you can point to. One, we don't have that commanding, domineering person who can just, say, right, that ball's mine, like Vidic used to do. If you remember,
Yeah.
Vidic used to stay clear. He didn't even bother man-marking. Everyone else would be man-marking or zonal marking. Vidic would just stay clear. He would wait to see where the ball was coming in, and he would win the majority and clear them. Fellaini is actually quite good at that as well. That's the one area where it's worth having Fellaini. Well, not the one area, but one of the few areas it's really worth having Fellaini in the team, is that he can do that. Not to the same degree, but he can do it, and he's proven vital to us at end game situations and managing those out in the past. But what I don't understand is, I mean, one, we've not criticised De Gea, but we said that's maybe his weakness versus our great keepers of past, that he maybe doesn't command his box. But Smalling, I don't understand how he can be so good in the air. He's good in the air from open play, and he scores quite a lot of goals. Smalling does, for a defender, he's a good goal scoring centre back, as we saw in that game, but in lots of other games too. I don't understand why he's so bad at defending corners. I feel like he's too hung up on his man. He's always focused on the man and tugging at the shirt and pulling it back and trying to disrupt the opposing attacker, rather than just watching the ball come in and being the one who clears it and saying, I'm going to get my head to that first. He's saying, I'm going to stop you getting your head to it. I just feel like there's a lacking in confidence or something from Smalling on the set piece, because he's a strong player. He's physically strong. He's tall. He's big. He's got a good head on him. He's got a good leap on him. But he just seems to get bullied constantly, and I think it's because he's maybe going at it with the wrong mentality. It just seems to be a theme that players do bully him. It's happened so many times to us now. It's definitely not the first time. It's not the first time with City.
Yeah, for me personally, like now, I think we are needing an upgrade on Smalling, and for England as well, he's fallen down the pecking order. I mean, that when things are not going great, when you're not even getting in the worst England squad of pretty much my lifetime, then yeah, that you're not at the top of your game at the moment. I think Rojo was on the bench, so he is back to fitness.
I don't know that he's great at those, is he? Like, I don't think any of them are. That's probably the weakest area of Bailly's game as well, right? Is heading typically. I mean, there's been a few other lapses from him recently, but in general, his weakness is mostly his heading and defending his box and 6-yard line. That I feel like that's just an area where we're incredibly weak, considering how many big players we've got.
Yeah, even Matic isn't that good at it either.
Yeah, for a big man, you're right. And it's in general, it's something we've talked about for several seasons now, is in general lack of leadership, and especially in the defensive area, that who is controlling the defense, who is in charge of it. And in fact, it should be Smalling, because he has been like captain, vice captain, and that kind of thing before. So out of all the players who are around there, he is the one who should be stepping up. But yeah, he's not managing to do it nowadays. And yeah, for me, I mean, I don't say we need to get rid of him. I'm even fine with him being part of our squad. But I think, yeah, we should be looking for an upgrade there. Don't know whether Lindelof will become a first team player for us. I mean, yeah, he's been a lot better lately, but not looking like somebody who you expect to start week in, week out. But yeah.
I feel like he would be similar in Bailly, that I could see either of them as a brilliant support act and the more player playing composed centre back, and maybe a more continental centre back who's next to a Vidic. No, he would be the Ferdinand to our Vidic. Both of them are kind of the Ferdinand mould, I would say. Neither of them are going to control that box and be that commanding presence on set pieces.
I mean, Bailly could become that. let's see how he develops. But it'll be a couple of years yet if he does, because he's still a youngish player, still learning the Premier League and probably the language. So yeah, we'll see where he goes. But yeah, that was the first goal. And then yeah, look, 5 minutes later we're 2-0 down. I mean, is there anybody you blamed for that second goal, Alex, or do you just think that it was a damn good bit of skill off Gundogan?
Well, first of all, we must say, for the credit that we'll give him later on in the show, De Gea's distribution has lacked quite often this year at times. And again, it was just a straight kick from him that they intercepted, and we were on the back foot because our full backs were halfway up the pitch ready to receive the ball from De Gea and push forward. And instead they intercept it, and they're in a situation that's 3-on-2 or whatever it was, where they were, bearing down on our already somewhat mentally weak at times defensive pairing, and they were just charging at us. In fairness, it was some fantastic piece of skill. They showed that cuteness and cleverness that they have in the box. They're willing to play those little intricate passes in the box that a lot of other teams just wouldn't do, and they seem to make it stick and reach the player, I think, because they practice these plays so much. I think that's one of the things about Guardiola, is that he maybe treats football a little bit like American football, and they have plays, and they expect certain players to be in this position in this play, and they know where they're going to be without needing to look, not through incredible awareness, more through awareness of their team and not the surroundings in that moment, but all the practicing they've been doing on the training field. So once he got it, it was in fairness a fantastic turn and a great toe-poked finish. If you can have a great toe-poked finish, it was kind of the perfect thing he needed to do, even if it's not quite as fancy. But it was a fantastic goal by them, a great piece of skill. It was just frustrating that it could have been avoided. Again, it was just a poor punt from De Gea that they intercepted, and then just they were bearing down on us, and at that point they were very clinical with it.
Yeah, and going on from there, like I said, we were lucky to go in at half time, only 2 down. I mean, yeah, Sterling missed a couple. They had several.
He's never scored against us, right? I think the stats something like he's played against us 18 times or something, or 16 times now, something like that. Anyway, he still never scored. Do you remember there was that game he had against De Gea where he had about 7 one-on-one chances when he was at Liverpool, and De Gea didn't have to make any fantastic saves or anything, but he placed them all at De Gea basically, and hopefully that's still in the back of his mind, because he's still not a natural goal scorer, but because of how Man City play and the training that he's had, he scored over 20 goals this year. So
yeah, and he was left out as well against Liverpool, so I don't know if that was playing on his mind or what, but yeah, whatever it was, thankful for that. And yeah, look, we rolled in another. Didn't really get going even after those 2 goals. Like I say, it was looking pretty bad.
It got worse. They're just carving us open.
Well, exactly, It got worse. Like I say, vaguely understand how Craig's sentiments, even though
it was like they were just behind us constantly. They were in behind us, and then they would miss, and then the next time the ball's in play, they would be behind our lines again. It was just ridiculous how easy they were just cutting us open. Our defense was just all over the place, absolutely all over the place.
They switched. Pep switched Sterling and Silva, because Silva was playing Bernardo.
Yes, he did.
He was playing the false 9, and then when Sterling came in, then they switched. That's when they really gave us problems, because I think Bernardo, he just kept drifting out to the wing, and I don't think that was much of an issue for Bailly or Smalling to deal with. It didn't give us much trouble at all. And then when Sterling came in, if you watched him, he kept dropping, almost creating like a third midfielder for them. And then then like Sane and Silva, they were making, or even Gundogan so Sterling would drop in, and then he would spin back around once he sucked in Bailly, and it was just, it's honestly, the thing is though, I feel like this exact thing, it doesn't need to be a false 9. It can just be a striker dropping in. It feels like I see our defenders, because I see Valencia do this all the time too, where run like 40 yards forward chasing, some winger, and then it just leaves this gaping space out wide for like the fullback to exploit on an overlap. And so then there's always these massive gaps because our defenders are they're going so far forward. And I'm assuming that must be some kind of tactical thing. Like I think we man to man mark usually. So, I think that we're just getting sucked in. But I can't imagine Jose is telling them to, just track players indiscriminate of where they are on the pitch.
And surely the premise of a Mourinho team, though, right, is that we have players who keep their shape and we pass players on, and we're very rigid in our movement. And we've got three midfielders there for a reason. Our fullbacks aren't, getting particularly high up the pitch. One always stays back, and against City we had everyone back. And even, it's not like we were attacking and getting into their box and they were countering us. And when that happens, then maybe you can understand us dragging us about and creating space. But this was just our set bank of four and bank of three in front of them, and they were just carving us open at will. And I don't understand what the players were thinking. Why? Like, we know that City players have incredibly clever movement. We know that they pull in and out and they interchange, and one will pull for another to go in behind. We know that. So keep to your position, mark your space, and pass players on when need to, and trust that the player you're passing it on to is going to pick it up and communicate. It was just really poor, and yeah, I was at that point I was so sort of just depressed and felt incredibly hopeless on United's quality and the sort of stark difference between where we are as a club and our players versus City.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing about this game. I'm like, I played football that morning and, chatting to the other lads about it. And I said, look, this is like the least I'm looking forward to a Manchester derby for a long, long time. And it was more just because there wasn't that much that I could see that we could even gain from this game. Like, the best case scenario was us just stopping City, delaying City's kind of title party for a week or two. Yeah. And of course, the worst case scenario was them actually winning it. So, yeah. But in the end, of course, you couldn't have written it any better. I mean, the mental 100%. Kind of boost from this kind of win, where their fans were olaying every touch of the ball after half an hour, as if already celebrating as if they've won it. So for us to turn it round like that, and for our fans, for the players, the kind of huge mental boost from this, like, you can't underestimate these kind of things. And even going into next season, I really think that this kind of win can change a lot of the kind of mental balance between where we are, where City are, and hopefully, like I say, maybe don't want to put too much onto one match like that. But yeah, it's a unique kind of situation when you come all the way back from that far down in a game, and not just down 2-0. It was, like you say, mentally where we were at. The team looked lost. It could have been a few different goals. Yeah, I was actually embarrassed by where we were, and I just, like you say, you're thinking, where can we go from here? City are just looking stronger and stronger. So yeah, I don't know what on earth was said at half time. I mean, it did look, of course, that the players, Pogba specifically, was kind of set free a little bit. He looked, he was playing 15, 20 yards maybe further forward than I think he was set up in the first half. I don't know if it's as simple as that. And I know, Alex, we've discussed this kind of stuff on various occasions all season about Pogba's positioning in a 2 versus a 3, and where he should be in that. And it's been a constant debate all year. And he's the one, that you have to really focus on for this second half performance. He was given man of the match for this game by a lot of people, even though he was pretty bad in the first half.
First half, he was shocking, and that's kind of the thing. Like, you've got two halves where he was in a 3 on both, and he had one half which was absolutely shocking. And compared to the City players, he's absolutely terrible and completely abject, and there seems to be a huge difference in quality. And then in the second half, he played either way a little bit more to his strengths. He stepped up and showed the true qualities that he possesses. Both instances, he was in a 3. It was maybe just mentality.
I think it was both ways in a 3, but for me it was pretty clear that he'd been pushed 10-15 yards further forward in the
I think we
second
were
half.
just getting on the ball. Like, I just think we were getting on the ball, so he was able to. I don't think we were getting on the ball in the first half. All our play was at the back, and they were intercepting, and any time that we looked to break, they were making cute and incredibly frustrating little tactical fouls to stop us from breaking, and seemingly, at least at first, never receiving a card for doing so, which is an annoying thing about playing City. And it's a sort of a not a benefit of their game, sorry. One of the things that they do so great that people don't really talk about is their ability to slow things down and stop teams breaking and whatnot. But yeah, I just think we're getting on the ball, and he was therefore able to affect it a little bit more. And he just got into the box twice, and we put balls into the box. We didn't put a ball into the box first off, so who knows what the hell could have happened. We never even got that far up the pitch, so it's kind of hard to judge. I don't necessarily think it was that he was higher up. I just think as a team we pushed higher up. All our players were higher up. We were pressing further up the pitch.
Yeah, that's true. We did push everybody, and even we didn't get enough from Sanchez or Lingard first half, whereas they came more into the game.
Second half, I think Sanchez has got a shout to be as pivotal as Pogba. It was him who got on the ball. He made that run in behind to get the ball in the corner and turned what is essentially a ball in the corner with a load of men back and City being organised into something worthwhile by charging at them, and then putting a direct ball into the box for Herrera to chest.
That turn he made was incredible.
Yeah, it was really good, yeah.
I don't think any other attacker we have would be able to make, because he sucked in Otamendi and then he just made such a sharp turn. He created that space for himself to play the ball. And then
it was pure low center of gravity sort of turn that you just don't see from many players. Yeah, 100%.
And then the ball he played was obviously perfect, and I mean that whole sequence was just beautiful.
It was a very good goal actually. Yeah, if that goal was scored by City, like we said earlier, then it would have been talked about in a high regard, I think.
Yeah, and he had another assist as well, of course, Sanchez, for the Smalling winner.
And he had 2 assists and then the chance created for Herrera. So the second goal, it was Sanchez cut inside and played the ball into the box for Pogba's header, remember? Yep. A fantastic turn. He saw Pogba's run and he played the perfect ball. Again, would any of our players be playing that ball? And finally getting a little bit of collaboration between those two is fantastic. And then not only did he put the brilliant ball in for Smallings, but he was the one who won the foul and the free kick in the first place. So I think he had a huge hand. In fact, he created all 3 goals. He didn't get the assist for the first, but he essentially created all 3 goals with his directness. And
yeah, definitely.
It's easily that. Even though he was so bad in the first half, that second half performance from him was fantastic. It's the first time we've really seen him properly influence a game for United and show his qualities. I think both him and Pogba hugely stepped up in that second half, and hopefully it does both of them the world of good. But I think Sanchez has an equal claim to, the impact and influence as anyone really.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Sorry, I thought you touched on it pretty well there, but just that they collaborated together, because when he joined United, and then since then it's kind of been this awkward thing between them where they seem almost like they're on top of each other a lot of the time, and they're in the same areas, and sometimes like I saw against Swansea actually, I thought there were some signs where Pogba didn't connect with him, but you could see Sanchez trying to make the run in behind when Pogba had the ball, and then in this match you saw. When Pogba played it to Sanchez forward, I think when he plays with Rashford or Martial, he knows that when he plays on the ball forward, they like to immediately take the ball and run at their defenders, whereas Sanchez likes to, kind of survey the situation, cut in, and then play over the top to him. So, I think it was just kind of realizing the skill set of Sanchez, and he even talked about it in the post-match, I think, with the interview he did with Henry, where he said that, Sanchez always tells him, when I play the ball, just make the forward run, I'll find you. And it sounds so simple when they say that, but when you're so used to playing a certain way and with certain players, it takes some time. Yeah.
How often have we seen Pogba make those third man runs into the box? You know, we spoke about how Makaleli freed up Lampard at the start of the season, and how we expected and hoped Matic would do the same for Pogba. And in the first few games, he did. If you remember, Pogba was getting into the box and scoring in those first few games, and then that just kind of evaporated, and we haven't really seen him do that again as the year has bore on, and he hasn't scored since November before this weekend, I believe. And look, he got into the box twice. He gambled for a change. He, took some faith and got in there. And maybe that's because we were playing a free as well. Maybe it's because we were pushed up as well that he was more willing to, or more comfortable to, or felt he had the people behind him. Whatever it needs to be. Anyway, he took the gamble. He actually got into the box and he got his goals for it. And fair play. We need to see him do more of that. That's the thing. He hasn't scored enough goals for us. And
that second header, actually, I think it was quite an underrated finish. Like,
really underrated,
yeah. I mean, it's a good ball from Sanchez, but it's actually slightly kind of behind Pogba in a way, and there isn't that much pace on it, and he's got to really, make the pace and from coming behind. So yeah, it was actually an outstanding header.
The idea was better than the actual ball.
He has to stoop in the air. I still think it was a great ball. It's like I don't think you can get those balls pinpoint. Like I think that's still a great ball, even if the striker has to do a bit of work. I still think it can be a great ball. But yeah, he kind of leaps above it and then has to stoop, and then it's the perfect finish. He gets it in the corner and he heads it into the ground, and the keeper's never saving it. He couldn't have done better with it, really.
What the hell was Otamendi doing on that?
And yeah, one thing I did want to mention, just because there'd been loads of press on it, or I saw all media pundits talking about Pogba's bloody hair, his blue and white hair. So everybody, of course, was talking about how he's dyed his hair, especially for the Manchester derby, in the colours of City. But he did this in the international break, playing for France. He already had this haircut against Swansea, and this was done for more his international playing for France. Of course, they're blue, white, red. And I think Pogba and Sanchez were both, we hate these international breaks and our players going away, but I think those are two players that really did benefit from actually going away with their international teams. They've both come back with a bit of, kind of renewed energy or something. They went away, and I don't know what helped them. Maybe, I know Pogba scored for France over there. I don't know how Sanchez actually did while he was off with Chile, but I think
having some time away to refresh, take a bit of a break to refresh is good for anyone,
Because, those were two players who were getting a lot of stick after we went out to Sevilla, and, we had that kind of slightly... I mean, on this podcast, we said, look, Sanchez shouldn't be starting anymore, and he was dropped for that FA Cup game against Brighton. But then, he's come back in, and he had a decent game against Swansea, and this is the first time, obviously in a big game, he's done the business for us. And so, starting to show the kind of what player we expected we were getting, basically. And hopefully we're just going to see more and more of that going forward as they start to understand each other's play, like you say, between Pogba, Sanchez, whoever it is. Hopefully it's just going to become more and more positive as we go forward from there.
It's even a better feeling to win against Man City, and don't let them win today against us in their own stadium. So today, to be honest, I feel very happy, but I have one side of me is disappointing too, because a performance like this in second half, if you do this like all the season, obviously I think we will be fighting for the title with City, or we will be just in front of them. But well, this is football, that it happened, and you have to carry on like this. We're learning, and still very happy today.
Yeah, and well said. The fans will love hearing those words, and your win today was for the fans, really, because they've supported you throughout, and to not let City win the league today is a great reward for them.
Yeah, obviously for the fans, coming here, supporting us at Man City Stadium, and they didn't want us to lose the game. We didn't want to lose this game, and we did it most of it for our proud, for ourselves, for the fans, for all Manchester fans.
I think it should be a big confidence booster for Pogba that he's scored a couple of goals as well in a huge game away at City as well, not even just at home. We spoke about there being a duck on Lukaku's back earlier in the season in those big games where there was so much pressure and media written about how he wasn't scoring in the big games, that you could see the relief when he scored against Chelsea. Even though it didn't do anything for his performance against City, either way, it should hopefully have an impact on him moving forward. And you'd like to hope that the same will be true of Pogba. It's as much for him than proving to anyone else. It's as much hopefully him proving to himself that he's got the capability to make a huge difference in a big game, to take a game by the scruff of the neck and turn it on its head, because I think that's what we all expected of Pogba. We didn't necessarily think he would be a Paul Scholes control the game, and we didn't necessarily think that he was going to be we definitely didn't think he was going to be a Roy Keane rough and tumble player, but we thought he was a player who could make the difference, who could win games for us, and that's what he did. So that's what we want to see more of. That's what we need from him.
Definitely, and we should give some props to Jose as well, because earlier in the season everybody was talking about how poor his big game record had been, and it had been absolutely horrific. But now, in quick succession, City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, we've beaten all these teams recently.
We did Spurs we got battered by recently, actually.
Yeah, we have lost one to them as well, but we have beaten them this season
we did beat them early in the season. It was a little bit more touch and go, but we did beat them. We've got the FA Cup semi-final against them, right, which will be the one, I think.
Yeah, that's going to be big.
If he can win that and then beat Chelsea in the final, then fucking props to him, in fairness. But no, you're right. Like, we have to give him credit because he won it, and I'm more than happy for it to be that half wasn't tactics and was just pure emotion and character and him getting a reaction from the team. That's fine by me. That's not what Fergie was built on, but a lot of what Fergie did so amazing. And what I want from a manager, someone who's got that charisma, who can get a reaction from their players, who can say what needs to be said, do what needs to be done, and we came out fighting, and that's all I really care about. If we'd ended up drawing that game 3-3, I would have been okay with it. If we'd have ended up losing 3-2, I'd have probably been okay with it. Just the fact that we didn't have another hopeless half of football where the gap was seemingly getting bigger and bigger as the half wore on, that we actually had some fight about us. Our players got some belief in themselves and realised actually we can pass the ball, we can create chances. We're not here to just hand the trophy over to them, that we can at least try and do something about it. Was all I really cared about, and the win was then just a big fucking fantastic bonus on top of that.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, this is one that really, for the fans and everything, there's nothing I like more. The one thing I would like more is if the same thing happened at Anfield. But let's say this is the second best option. And seeing those City fans, especially, pictures all going round of they were like celebrating
crying.
The title. Yeah, exactly, literally.
Oh right, okay.
Do take a lot of pleasure out of that.
How are there City fans crying? They're on course for a record-breaking season.
I think it's just that emotion, isn't it? When you've gone so high to then go so low. It's that.
But it wasn't a final. I know that they could win it that day, but just, I don't know. But I guess just.
Yeah, what it meant though against United.
Yeah.
And how that's it. They've gone so high, and then it's just that emotional kind of roller coaster that. You think this is done, we're winning the league, we're beating our big rivals and doing it, and for it to turn around so far, it's just that emotion to go from one way all the way there to all the way the other side, and of course the other way for United fans, where you're embarrassed, down and out, and then for you just like Lennon Dreamland. That's what I said. The mental kind of boost and everything you get from this compared to, say, grinding out a 1-0 win after defending, and it's totally different. It's completely different. And you couldn't have actually written it any better than that. The way you wanted it to go, this is the way you want it to happen. And like I said, pre-match, I wasn't that looking forward to it because I didn't really see where the big, anything was going to be great for us. Even if we won it, whatever, we were still just delaying City's party. But this was the way that was going to make it all worthwhile in the end. And Yeah, look, let's see. I mean, at City, we assume, of course, they're going to win the league sooner or later, whether it's next week, whether it's the week after, or whatever. But we'll stop a few records as well. I think, they had a whole list of records they could have done of the earliest Premier League win and least defeats and things like that. But yeah, I think a lot of these are going out the window now, one by one.
Yeah.
So they'll still, they've still obviously had an outstanding season, but let's see when the record actually done at the end of the season where we're at with it. And yeah, I'm glad as well that they've not got anywhere near our kind of trebles or even double winning seasons that we've had in the past. So yeah, I mean, they were billed as the greatest Premier League team ever around Christmas time. But yeah, United teams, we've won doubles, we've won trebles, we've gone seasons unbeaten at home the whole year, things like that. And yeah, City can't claim any of those things this season. And no small feat for us actually, going there and winning this one. So yeah, so fair play to Jose for that. And there has been quite a few other stats doing the rounds as well. He was complaining a couple of weeks ago saying, look, I'm not getting the credit and we're not getting the credit for, even though, we've not had the best season, we still had a decent season. And there's a few other things of stats I was seeing today. There's in 2018, I think we've got the most points of any of the Premier League teams. I think joint with Spurs perhaps ahead of City. So yeah, this year's gone pretty well for us. We've not conceded more than 2 goals in any match all season. We're the only team in the top 5 European divisions, I think. Who can complain not to have conceded 3 goals in any match. So like I say, these aren't things that we're going to start printing t-shirts about or anything, but they're at least some like positive things to hold on for more going towards next year, really.
Are we going to be? Are we going to have the Liverpool if the posts were goals trophy as well this year? I think that was one that they always claimed, right? If every time they hit the post it was a goal, they would have won the title, and I think they would have won the Premier League about 8 or 9 times if that had been the case. If you ask a Liverpool fan, sounds like we're dangerously close to that path of delusion and denial.
Yeah, exactly. But we've got to grab hold of the small silver linings in, a season that was almost a write-off a couple of weeks ago after going out of the Champions League.
I think the mentality thing, though, you're completely right on. One, that it was away from home, I think is a big deal. Mourinho's has had a terrible record with United. For games away from home, I think we'd only won one of the ones away from home before now against the top 6. And it was the biggest one. That it was City in their year of domination and greatness, and whoever they dropped, it was still a fantastic team who was out there, and they brought those players on, and the fact there was a comeback, I completely agree with you, makes a huge difference. Hopefully, I think that should hopefully play a huge part in that game against Spurs, because even though it's meant to be a neutral ground, it's obviously where Spurs have been playing this season and last. So technically,
yeah, it is quite an annoying little, anomaly that this year. It's all right. It's only for 1 year, but
hopefully, the team are now gone. Look, we beat City away from home. We can beat Spurs away from home. We can do this. We've got a framework for doing this. And like I said, I just want our players in those situations to believe that and play, and to have conviction in their play that they can pass the ball and put the ball in the box and be direct and take on some shots, and that they can actually play with a bit of conviction, which hopefully after the performance against City they will actually do moving forward in those big away games, and fingers crossed obviously that pays dividends when we come up to Wembley in a couple of weeks, because that's huge, I think, personally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we do have 2 Premier League games before that. We've got West Brom at home next, and then Bournemouth away midweek. But yeah, look, really, this Tottenham game in a couple of weeks for both us and Tottenham are massive games, because we're almost kind of consolidating that top 4. I think Chelsea are about 10 points off now. So yeah, I think the top 4 is almost looking done now, and it's just jostling for 2nd, 3rd, 4th place. So yeah, Liverpool are obviously still going for the Champions League, and then it's us and Tottenham in the semi-finals of that FA Cup. Yeah, as you mentioned, this is something I've always hated, that the semi-finals are at Wembley. I think it's one of the things that really devalued those kind of trips to Wembley.
Yeah, although I can. It's difficult because I can understand it when Stoke, for example, went to the FA Cup final against Manchester City. They played Bolton in the semi-final at Wembley. one of those teams wasn't going to go through, and let's be honest, it could be 50 years before one of them gets to Wembley again. So for them and for those fans, it was, a huge day out and the only time they're going to get to experience Wembley. So
well, it could still be a huge day out. I mean, I remember when, FA Cup finals were played at neutral grounds, and the cool thing was that it went all around the country. I mean, they were often at Old Trafford and
Villa Park had a few, didn't they? I think
exactly.
For me, the ideal scenario would be that you played at the Millennium Stadium, the Cardiff Stadium, for the semis perhaps, and then Wembley for the finale. I think that would be a good sort of compromise to it.
Yeah, but it's obviously because we overspent so ridiculously on building the new Wembley that all these kind of contracts have been in place for a while now. But I am going to that game. I've got a ticket, so I shouldn't complain too much perhaps.
So you're one of these fans now who just turns up for the Wembley day trips, right?
I am actually, I'm one of these big game Reds. Just turns up for the Wembley one because it's just down the Jubilee line for me.
Bet you're not going to West Brom this weekend, are you?
I think you're right. I'm afraid. Like I said, I've become a big game Red, unfortunately, over time. Just to mention actually, because I'm somebody quite involved in discussions about what's happening with atmosphere and things like that. There was actually as we're playing West Brom home next match, there's a bit of disappointing news today that West Brom have been the first Premier League team who've applied to have a safe standing section back at their ground. Just today the news came out that they've been turned down basically. Quite a kick in the teeth for that kind of safe standing and trying to get the atmosphere back to English grounds in general.
What were the reasons given?
I've not seen all the details yet. I mean, the reasons are that all the way since going back to the Hillsborough disaster in the 90s,
I know, but there's been so many studies since then on how it could be done safely, right? And
exactly.
Measures and precautions that we've now got in place and the safeguards and, there are all these things and there are all these other examples of European countries who do it and do it well. Dortmund being a prime example.
Germany have plenty
with 90,000 people and they do it well and it works fantastically. And that is a shame.
And the English game has changed a lot. In like I say, what used to be in the 90s and whatever, things have changed a lot. And I mean, the big thing that happened was that Celtic have opened up a safe standing area, so that was supposed to be the thing that would open up for things happening here now in England, because you say all right, maybe Germany's a different thing or whatever, but if it can work out in Scotland, then most people thought it was just a matter of time till this happened here. But the problem is still legally is still in the rules that all Premier League stadia have to be all-seater. And it's going to take a bit of a rule change, and it's going to have to come from kind of governmental level. And I think at the moment there's still not the will for that. But hopefully it's just a matter of time that it goes from there. Because that will be the big thing that can change things. There's been a lot of press about atmosphere, and Mourinho has made a few comments, and people say, why can't it be? And this is one of the things people don't know. Maybe a lot of the history of what's happened in England and why we're where we're at. And there's we could do a whole show on that, and maybe we will one day. But like I say, I did just see that, and since we're playing West Brom next, I thought it was worth a mention.
That usually thing doesn't take a bill or a draft though, right? That sort of thing could typically just go through the Department of Sport or whatever, right? And just be a what are they called now? I forgot what they're called, but that typically doesn't need to be an act of Parliament or anything, that sort of thing. But then I guess there is still that very sensitivity around Hillsborough, and that's obviously something that a lot of MPs have been involved in. There has been a lot of discussion about the House of Commons, so I guess I could understand why there would maybe be some skepticism and some people lacking in coming forward on that front. But it is a huge shame. I completely agree. Massive shame. But they trialled moving the singing section to where the away end typically is, right?
For that Brighton match, they did move the singing section to where our away fans normally would be at Old Trafford, which was where everybody originally wanted our singing section to go.
I thought the police were against it.
They were quite against it, I think, for a long-term thing, and I still don't think that that's going to be an option long-term. It was just a kind of one-off, because on FA Cups we give a lot more tickets to the away team, so
it sounded like it worked well on the telly.
I think I wasn't there, but everybody who went said it was brilliant. And
wasn't a big enough game.
Yeah, exactly. Let somebody else go to the early rounds. I just turn up for the semi-final and the final. But no, I was actually abroad for this. To be fair, I've only just come back on Friday after being away for 2 weeks working. Yeah, that stand has a much better acoustics. It's officially L stand, but we always call it the away stand. But the acoustics there, because of the way the roof is and everything, is a much better place. It keeps the sound in, it spreads it around the ground better. Whereas at the moment, I mean, I'm sat in there in J stand where our singing section is. We actually get a pretty decent atmosphere in J stand. And yeah, I've been one who said for me, it's been real successful, and I really enjoy it. And I think you've been in there with me, right, Alex? And
yeah, lots of times now. Yeah.
Yeah,
But then I've also been in the Stretford end, for example, and you can see J stand bouncing up and down.
But you can't hear it.
Hear a job.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can't hear anything. Yeah, it doesn't travel well at all. Not in the slightest.
That's it. Our ground is so big, so open. A lot of the sound just gets lost from one end to the other. In fact, I remember going there when I first was a season ticket in the 90s, and our capacity was only something around 45,000. So yeah, the stadium was much smaller, but we actually made a lot more noise because all that sound stayed in. The roof was more enclosed. Yeah, you could hear the Stretford end would sing, and you could hear it from the other end of the stadium, and almost the kind of ends would sing at each other and a bit of banter. But nowadays you just don't get that because our ground is nearly like double the size, and it's just so much more open, and so much has happened over time. Like I say, a lot of people who watch on TV or whatever, they don't understand a lot of this history of why we're where we're at. But things are starting to move forward, and hopefully it might take another year or something, but something like safe standing would be the next massive thing to make a difference of bringing that old atmosphere back again.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. One thing, I had down a few notes to mention, and like I say, it's way back now, but I did want to give him a quick mention because it was big press at the time. But we beat Brighton in the previous round, quite an average performance. I'm not going to go through it because it was so long ago now. But Luke Shaw was hauled off at half time in that game, and then has been slagged off a fair bit by Mourinho. I mean, Ashwin. Do you think that treatment of Shaw has been fair, or where do you think it's right to be criticising players in public?
He's not like. I think he's criticised a fair number of players publicly before, and I mean the thing is everybody that he's dropped from the team previously has had a chance to come back in. So even if he is, being cruel to Luke Shaw or whatever. I mean, I think the whole portrayal of it's been really weird. But I mean, the reason Shaw isn't getting back into the team isn't because Mourinho has some, unspoken, just unreasonable hatred for him or anything, right? I mean, we know for a fact that he was interested in bringing him to Chelsea, but United bid, way outbid what Chelsea were willing to, right? So we know that it's not about him rating the quality of the player. He even said 2 months ago that Shaw would get a new contract. So whatever happened from there until the Brighton match, and he even outlined specifically after the match. He said that, and he actually, in the same criticism that he criticized Shaw for, he mentioned Valencia in it too. He said specifically that Valencia and Shaw weren't getting forward, and that he could have pulled both of them off. But he pulled off Shaw because he thought Valencia was at least giving. He basically said at least Valencia was, giving effort and trying to give effort defensively. Yeah. And I don't know, just this whole thing with Shaw has just gone on for so long. And I've generally tried to, I think that it's been hard for him with his injury. And so, a lot of things have happened. Not all of it is his fault. But at some point, I have a hard time believing Mourinho is just has some agenda or some vendetta against him that he's not like this. Again, there are players, he dropped Pogba, right? I mean, at that point, once he's dropped Pogba, why is Shaw some sacred cow? I mean, what the hell has Luke Shaw done? Honestly, what has he done?
In fairness, so I don't think the issue people have is that he criticises Shaw because, like you say, he criticised Valencia and he criticised McTominay in that same post match. It was the one where he said that Matic was an island.
Yeah,
I think.
Like an island of class.
Yeah, something like that. But in fairness, he did then single out Shaw for the lack of effort and aptitude and whatnot.
And it's not the first time. I think that's the other thing. It's like the second or third time he's called out Shaw.
Like, doesn't that mean that there's probably a reason for why he's singling him out?
No, I agree. So, but if you actually look back, Pochettino talks about it in his book. Van Gaal mentioned it multiple times. If you remember when he came in, Van Gaal complained about his fitness and said that he put on too much weight and that he wasn't fit enough, he wasn't applying himself. And also Roy Hodgson's spoken about it multiple times. So, that's 4 managers now who have taken issue with Shaw's perceived lack of application, lack of fitness, lack of effort, lack of training, lack of dedication. And it's got to the point now where I just think there's no smoke without fire. Too many managers are saying it. It's clearly an issue, and you can have all the raw talent in the world, but if you're not willing to put the effort in, then that talent can amount to nothing. So I can completely understand Mourinho's frustration because he's got a ready-made left back for the future there. But if he's not going to put the effort in, then it's not worthwhile. And I think Lampard's mentioned before that Mourinho is so one-track minded, he just cannot accept when a player doesn't share that same winning, do whatever it takes mentality, who will put all the effort in and will, go out to war every game. Like he just doesn't understand that. And I think that's sometimes a problem for Mourinho, but also it's understandable at other times where a player just takes the piss and goes a bit too far. I think people have maybe taken issue and felt that it was somewhat a case of bullying and he went too far with it. But I don't think he said anything particularly bad. It's not like he subbed him on and subbed him off immediately after as a form of humiliation or anything. He was just very open and honest in his frustrations. I don't think he's been offensive or anything like that. So I haven't actually got any issues with his handling of it really. I have sometimes for other players, but not for sure. Because, like I say, I think there's just too many managers have said the same thing now that is clearly an issue with him.
Yeah, I kind of agree with it. The only thing I'd say, like I say, is that I don't see that much benefit coming from, it being the second or third time that you call somebody out. I do see Mourinho does this, like you say, with a lot of players, and it's almost his way of saying, listen, this is your one more chance, and he always gives them another chance. They're never frozen out completely. They're always come back into the team, and he always gives them another chance. But yeah, it's the first time. It's been like the second or third time, and he's still a very young player as well. Don't forget, a very young player we paid a lot of money for. He actually had a few decent games around Christmas time, I remember.
Yeah, he did.
And then it was kind of surprising that Young came straight back into the team. But yeah, but I don't know where Shaw goes from here now, really. I think it's going to be a bit of a surprise if he stays any further than the summer.
Yeah, I think he's gone. I actually think that you've touched on something there. So what I've wondered is whether he's been more public in his criticism of Shaw, because I wonder whether the board haven't backed him in giving up on Shaw and selling him and getting a new left back, because I think he'd already maybe indicated that was his intention and his plan probably last season. I don't know that he necessarily wanted to wait till this season to make a decision on that. I think that a 30 million English youngster with bags of clear talent, I think he was maybe told to put more effort and work with him more. I think the board maybe put their foot down on Shaw a little bit and said, no, look, you need to try and do everything you can to make it work. And I wonder if maybe that's why he's been more public in his criticism of him, because he's saying, look, we need a new left back. I can't go on like this any longer. And he's maybe making the position a little bit more untenable. I don't know if that's completely tin foil hat.
There was a report earlier this year that the board had essentially told him that Shaw was, like, you have to give Shaw a chance. So it wasn't. I think that's if you just figured that out on your own, congratulations. But yeah, there was a report earlier.
I mean, there's nothing particularly intellectually impressive about it, but it's just a feeling that I have, because Mourinho's often been one to use the press and use his post-match to sort of make a bit of a statement, particularly in his time at Chelsea. There was like a struggle with Abramovich and transfers and new players, and you saw it this in the summer window just gone, where he would talk about wanting 4 players and things, and he was constantly pushing to get at least 3. And if you remember, there was then a lot of reports leaked that he wasn't happy because we weren't doing enough. He was making some comments in the press, and then when we got the 3rd player, he pulled back on a lot of that and started to talk about how well the board had done. So I think he's known to use the boardroom and the press to his advantage in sort of player negotiations, getting the players in that he wants, getting rid of the players he doesn't want. So I wonder if maybe he's got a bit of a history for it, and that's why, Nick, as you say, he's maybe being a little bit more open with criticism of Shaw than he perhaps needs to be, and maybe it's a little bit unnecessary.
Yeah, could well be. Like you say, it's all speculation. We don't know exactly what's going on, but yeah, it does make sense in a way.
On transfer speculation, right? We need to discuss Guardiola's claims now.
Oh God.
About Pogba.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird comment, and I think it was some of that just pre-mind game stuff, to be honest. And did you see that Guardiola was whispering to Pogba at the end of the game?
For quite a while as well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was mentioning something about this, and I have a feeling he was probably just saying, yeah, look, that's... Yeah, it's pre-match stuff, and I was saying that whatever. Like, I very much doubt that he's saying, "Oh, we were offered Pogba." I mean, I'm sure they probably were offered Mkhitaryan, because I think it's now looking pretty clear that he was on offer in the winter window, so that's not too surprising. But who knows what's said or where it comes from?
As much as I don't think Guardiola's this saint, and I think he's sometimes portrayed as a much nicer guy than Mourinho, I don't know that he's a liar as such. I don't know that. I think there was maybe a twisting of words. I 100% do not would not put it past Raiola to have had a sneaky word with City, and not even it not be an offer. Just I think he does whatever he can to get his player a bigger paycheck. And to get himself a good paycheck. So that could have even just been him giving City a nudge to get a wink from them so he can go back to United and say, look, City are knocking on the door. They're interested.
Like you say, it's probably there'll be a bit of a twisting of words somewhere along the line.
A little bit more cash in our pockets can push that problem away. But, I 100% wouldn't put it past Raiola to... have a little, hey, what about Pogba? Hey, what do you fancy? Do you fancy some of that in a few years? Put a cheeky offer in and use that as some sort of leverage. Like, 100% wouldn't put that past him. Like, I don't think there would have ever been an intention of Pogba going to City, because obviously United would have never sold him. So it was kind of the end game would have always been that he went elsewhere or got a bigger contract at United anyway. As far as I'm concerned, but I wouldn't say I doubt that Raiola did have any conversation of that sort. If you get my drift.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. What were you saying, Ashwin? I think you had a...
I think agents probably talk. I mean, it could just be a hypothetical thing where...
You think what?
I think agents talk all the time to...
Agents? I thought you said Asians. I was really confused for a moment. Okay.
I think that they talk to these major clubs all the time, and it's easy to... he could easily have just asked some hypothetical, like, oh, if Pogba were to come on the market. Always, I mean, I don't know how much... I don't think Raiola is...
You want an estate plan, right? You want options for your player. Right. If there is talk of Mourinho, and who knows what was going on behind the scenes, whether there was a bit of friction between Mourinho and Pogba or whatever it needs to be, that an agent's kind of doing their job if he can say to his client, look, we've got these options, don't worry about it, we've got you covered. We can go to City if you want to stay in England, we can go to Madrid, we can go to Barca. Like, I think you're right. I think this sort of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
He clearly saved it for the...
In that press conference, he almost set up the conversation so that he could just insert that in there.
He'd obviously planned it.
He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing there.
But it backfired, right? Do we... I mean, who the fuck knows, obviously, but does Pogba go and score those 2 goals? Does he get as riled up as he did without that? Maybe. Obviously, we don't know, but maybe not.
I think that will push him. That even if it's just 10% further or something, I think those kind of comments, will actually make a bit of difference somewhere along the line.
At the end of the game, he was so pumped up, Pogba. Like he was the key person celebrating with the fans, and he was pumping his fist, and he was saying, I don't know what he was saying. He was like pointing at his mouth and then shaking his hands.
And pointing at the badge. I don't know. There was a lot of pointing.
No, yeah, but there was, exactly. But either way, he was clearly like pumped up and whatnot. And yeah, I 100% think that stuff played into our hands. If anything, I think in the end it suited us and did us more favors than not.
Yeah,
definitely.
I liked his celebration with De Gea afterwards. That was fun.
Yeah. Great. And in fact, we didn't mention De Gea's wonder save. But I guess we have those every week now, so it just becomes a kind of accepted thing. There's going to be 1 or 2 of those a week. But yeah,
it's annoying that Aguero. I know he's a great little player with great movement. It's annoying that he's winning, climbing for that header and getting such a free touch on it in our box.
He was pretty open. There wasn't even really any. He wasn't even winning it against anybody. He's found that space on his own and is pretty much unchallenged almost.
Frustrating, but yeah, absolutely fantastic. That was like a heart in mouth moment. And even when we say that City could have been away with it at half time, they still had some fantastic chance and they hit the post after that, right?
Yeah, Sterling, it comes off him. And we didn't talk about the penalty incident. Well, I think probably the rule of the law today, we've probably got away with one there. But Young does get a touch on it, but I think probably it should have been a penalty. But that's why we're not going to talk about it.
but we were due one, right, at Old Trafford last season.
Rooney was taken down. No
one really mentions that.
And then there was the one with Rashford the year before where he got taken down in the box by Di Michaelis, and they didn't call that.
Oh, that must have been ages ago if it was Di Michaelis, no? Was that the one year before?
Yeah, that was the one where Rashford retired him.
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
He scored, right? Yeah. God, that feels like so long ago now. But yeah, so we were due one. Neville's commentary annoys me at times. Like I do feel like sometimes he's just feels like he's trying so much to be unbiased.
Neutral.
It just he hasn't gone and spat at a United fan yet, I guess.
Yeah, that was actually one thing that I regretted from the last show, that I never got to talk about Carragher, because it was on my list that day, but we had so much to talk about with Sevilla, Liverpool, whatever. We haven't had a good chance to have a good laugh at Jamie Carragher, actually. So yeah, I'm glad you reminded us of that one. But go on, back to Neville.
Well, there was the handball penalty incident in the first half, and it's like the rule is that it's meant to be a deliberate handball. How anyone could even claim
when you slip,
a player who's slid on the floor and he's purposely made a strong movement with his head to try and head the ball whilst on the floor, the ball's then hit his hand. There's been no movement of the hand towards the ball, only of his head. He's on the floor. He's slid. He's still in the motion of sliding. The ball's going at a ridiculous speed. I couldn't believe that he was trying to claim that we'd got away with one, and that was arguably a penalty. By no definition, no law, and no precedent really have we ever seen one given like that.
Yeah, no, forget that.
Just as much as I think that handball penalties there needs to be clarification on, and it's completely inconsistent, that was one that is always no penalty, and he's got the benefit of all the replays and everything, and I just thought it was insane and ridiculous, but it's hardly a big deal. Just annoyed me at the time quite a lot.
Yeah, look, I agree with you on that one. Like I say, the other one, probably we got away with one, but forget about that. It's another one of those that, 15 years ago you would have said it's a great tackle because it gets a bit of a touch on the ball, but nowadays the way they talk about this and that, whatever, it's all changed.
Yeah, we got lucky.
Yeah, I saw it get described as a horror tackle, and I mean, I have a hard time describing anything where he actually gets the ball first as a horror tackle.
Yeah, he does touch the ball. Yeah, like I say, he's not just wiped the guy out with like so late that he's nowhere near it or whatever.
I don't think it's horror. I don't think it's a horror tackle. I do think it's a penalty.
Yeah, it's probably a penalty. I didn't think it was a red though.
We won the game in the details. We fought back. We showed character. We rode our luck a little bit, but who the fuck gives a shit? That's fine. I don't
Yeah,
mind us
exactly.
winning games like that.
To be honest, the fact that City fans have to cry about that makes it even better.
100%. If anything, you'd rather lose in a bit of a, shit house way, wouldn't you? If
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's better to beat Arsenal in a smash and grab than to dominate them. I'd always rather they dominated us, had a shitload of shots, and we smash and grabbed and won it at the end. It's the one team where I'd rather win it as shit as possible, just to rub it in even more.
Yeah, fair enough. Like I say, the banter, whatever, with his fans and seeing the other lot crying, whatever, has all those extra benefits. And in fact, yeah, we talk about the big game record, and I've been quite disparaging about the FA Cup earlier this year and saying, look, to me, actually winning these one-off matches, City, Liverpool, whatever, is as important to me as, say, winning the FA Cup, to be honest. Just, in one season. It's why, like, last season I was pretty annoyed that we weren't getting any points in any of these games, or, the best we were coming out with was a 0-0 draw.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the cups mean more when they're won against good opposition. So I think this year, if we win the FA Cup and we've beaten Spurs in the semis and Chelsea in the final, that feels to me a much bigger achievement than, beating Crystal Palace and Everton or beating Ajax and whoever. Like, I think this year, winning that FA Cup, we should have to go through two very good teams, probably, because I can't imagine Mark Hughes' Southampton will get there. You never know, but
Chelsea are hardly in top form, so wouldn't. We'll see what happens there.
But yeah, if we can beat Spurs and Chelsea to win it, those will be big one-off games in their own right. So,
but yeah, that Spurs game is going to be very difficult. I mean, Kane is just back now. I think at the time when the draw was made, people weren't sure whether he was going to be fit or not because he was with this injury. But yeah, he is back in the team now. So yeah.
Have you seen that they've requested that this clear Eriksen goal is attributed to Kane? So that he can
No,
go for top
I didn't
scorer?
see that. No, I hadn't seen that actually. I
Have
did
you
see a
seen the
bit of
goal?
debate. I've got a WhatsApp group with some mates of a fantasy league, and they've all been crying about it. Everybody's got Kane is demanding to get their points for that goal. But
from what I can tell, like, you can't see any touch, you can't see any impact, you can't see any change in the movement of the ball or the speed of the rotation, anything like that. Who the fuck knows if he got ahead to it, but it doesn't seem like it. But he came out, he claimed, he swore on his daughter's life that it was his goal and he got a touch on it, which seems a little inappropriate. Spurs have gone and asked the FA if it can be appealed and attributed to Kane, so he can go for. It's just insane. It's just that's their ambition and their priority.
Yeah, I guess now, like you say, Kane wants that golden boot, whatever. I don't know how many is he behind Salah, but it's not that much in it.
He's a fantastic player, and I guess it's I guess Ronaldo's got a similar mentality. He'd probably be the same, but
yeah, they want to win every little trophy, everything.
Yeah.
And but no, look, that's going to be a massive matchup. And in fact, just like I said, I saw today the league table of just Premier League points from January 1st onwards this year, and us and Spurs are top of that top of that table. So yeah, we are the form teams at the moment.
They absolutely battered us at Wembley a few weeks ago, and I feel like they've beaten us 2-0, 3-0 a few times over the last few years. Last year was also 3-0, I believe, and they beat us 3-0 under Van Gaal as well. Or 3-1.
But yeah, we did beat them earlier this season, but it was a bit of a.
But at Wembley, yeah, exactly. It was a scruffy 1-0 at Old Trafford, whereas Wembley, they completely dominated us.
We were poor in that game.
And last year as well, completely. So yeah, but we hadn't beat City at the Etihad at that point. So who knows? Sanchez and Pogba hopefully can carry a bit of big game form with them moving forward, and maybe we've got a framework for being the teams now with that three of Matic, Herrera and Pogba, one that we expected to do incredibly well at the start of the season. It just hasn't panned out. Maybe we're finally in a position where we can use that moving forward and get some joy with it.
Yeah, you would expect that we'd go into that match a similar way. Although I do remember Jose setting up to match Tottenham in those games and playing, three centre backs, which don't think we've done for quite a while now, have we? But he did do that a couple of times against Chelsea and Tottenham earlier in the season, trying to match the teams off. We'll see how he sets up for this one.
But you'd have thought we've played 4 at the back against Liverpool, City, and Chelsea and got results. That you'd hope that he would continue with that, right? You would expect him to.
I personally would do that. I'm not a fan of this constantly changing your setup and whatever for the other team, but it is the way Mourinho normally does things. I prefer, of course, having a philosophy. This is our team. This is the way we play, and you just get ready to deal with us.
Yeah, you want Van Gaal, right?
Yeah, so you're a big Louis Van Gaal fan.
You want Van Gaal.
Well, I was the only one who was always bloody supporting him and his philosophy till the end. But, in general, I just preferred that where, I respect teams who do that kind of way and just say, this is the way we play. And, you have to kind of deal with us rather than, we're going to work out how we change things. But, that's not the manager we have and that's not the way he does things. So, it's not what I'm going to expect. But like I say, I'm actually really not sure how we'll go in this one because we did have success with matching them and going with their formation earlier in the year. But at the same time, it's been quite a while since we've played in that way. But we do have 2 matches, and I think we might, if we see, because he did this before. I think it might have been just before we played Tottenham. We played somebody like Swansea the match before earlier the year, and he already went with that 3 at the back. So now let's see what he does, because these are 2 games that you'd kind of assume we're going to win, so we might experiment a bit. So let's see how he sets up against West Brom, and especially Bournemouth away, which is the match just before. It'll be interesting because he may decide that, all right, I'm going to do that, and then he'll see if he does it in the match before to get him ready for that.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, Bournemouth midweek, and it's hey.
On TV, do you know?
I'm not sure actually, but this is because, of course, this is a double game week because we missed games because of the FA Cup. But I suppose Tottenham must be playing midweek as well.
If it's double game week, then don't forget about your triple captains.
Oh yeah, exactly. There's a wild cards, triple captains, bench boosts all over the place.
If you've saved your triple captain for double game week, which anyone who's played fantasy football for more than 1 year surely has done, make sure you don't forget, because I've done that before where I've saved it for 8 months of the season thinking, right, I'm going to use it on Aguero. He's going to have 2 games in a week. He'll score 8 goals. And then I've completely forgotten and I've captained someone who's injured or something. I don't know. So, get those in, everyone. Get them in early, nice and early.
Well, I've already primed up. I've actually just brought Lukaku back into my team. Probably going to give him the kiss of death, unfortunately. But that's already primed for triple captain for the double game week. So hopefully.
The double game week starts with West Brom, right, and ends with
Bournemouth. Exactly. Okay. Exactly. One of his old teams as well, in fact, West Brom.
Yes, I might do the same. I've got Lukaku as well. Good idea. I might do that tonight. I might do it now.
But one thing to say though is it's not. He may rest players against Bournemouth. I don't know how he's going to look at this now. That's the only thing to think about.
Now we're not in the Champions League. We're having some full weeks, right? I think he should just keep momentum. I mean, I think he'll probably mix it up a bit just because he probably thinks he needs to give Martial and Rashford some game time.
And Shaw.
Maybe McTominay.
Exactly.
Maybe and Luke Shaw. Maybe Lingard. Not Lingard.
No, Lingard is one of the ones that needs a rest. Yeah.
Lindelof. Maybe I definitely think we'll see Martial, Rashford and Lindelof over the next 2 games. I don't think he'll be resting players for Spurs. I think he'll just be, trying to keep a bit of competition and, keep a few players happy and whatnot. More so.
Yeah, makes sense. Like I say, a couple of Premier League games coming up, and then we'll record against after that Spurs game at Wembley, and hopefully we'll be celebrating an FA Cup final to at least finish the season on a bit of a high. So I think we've covered about just everything there, lads. Bit bit here and everywhere. Like I say, it's one to remember, coming from 2-0 down to 3-2. Even though City, of course, will win the league this season, these kind of small wins mean the world after that. Yeah, for sure.
All their leagues are hollow, so.
Yeah. All right, on that note, I think that's good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night for me also.